board seems to have pressured CFO and CEO to step down over, quote, setbacks and disappointments. This is a major shakeup. We're talking about, I think it was a power agreement with a facility in Maine that there was some beef about that spilled into Twitter a couple days ago. We talked about that yesterday. And now this is certainly an escalation, and potentially that power agreement with that Maine facility was just the tip of the iceberg. So this is a pretty interesting shakeup. Probably the first story that we've seen from a mining firm to be hit hard by market conditions. And as such, the board has decided to replace the CEO and CFO over at Compass Mining. This is pretty crazy. I'm going to throw it straight to Jen for her thoughts on Compass.
Yeah, so I read this story and I just thought, like, yikes. So the resignations definitely point to some mismanagement. I don't think this is only due to market conditions. I really zeroed in on the part of the article that mentioned that Compass closed their Discord channel on June 24th. So some customers, I think it was on Twitter, were saying that this was intended to stop them from sharing information amongst each other or lodging complaints. I think this is just like PR 101. When something is going wrong and there's a crisis to manage, don't shut down your communications channels. I think even if you have nothing to communicate, communicating that is better than shutting down channels, especially in this industry, especially in this market. That's how you erode trust very, very quickly. But it looks like the board has stepped in here to make some changes. It sounds like there's going to be a big restructure coming. And so I hope that they're able to turn this around, but I don't like that they shut down their Discord. Wendy?
All right. So I know that Compass had some shaky beginnings, very, very early beginnings. You guys can do your own research on that. And it does definitely sound like there's a lot of funds that were being mismanaged, which I feel like a lot of people in the bull market were not. I feel like people are just making so much money so fast. And we see this with traders all the time too. People using high leverage, people taking out collateralized loans, not seeing how those worked. And I feel like that's kind of what happened with this particular company. I didn't know they shut down the Discord. That's a big, big no-no. This is why you pay marketers. This is why you pay PR people to kind of communicate for you. There also seems to be a big issue in crypto in general with communication skills, because we have all these really, really smart people, but they have a hard time communicating what they're feeling or what's happening. And you can't do that when you have customers. I also don't know exactly how the company was structured and how they were providing services, but I do know closing a Discord is bad. And I do think that it's interesting that the rest of the team is calling for the resignation of the uppers. And hopefully that will save the company. But I think we will see a lot more issues with Bitcoin miners in the future, because the money is just not there like it was when Bitcoin was trading at $60,000 and up.
Yeah, and we saw another really interesting piece from Eliza, who is one of our mining specialists, called, crypto miners are facing margin calls and defaults as debt comes due in the bear market. That's a nice long read that you might want to also dig into if this story is of interest to you, because I think you're going to see that, especially from these big mining firms that went public during this last bull run. All of a sudden, it's a very different environment that they're going to find themselves in as they relate to the public markets and as they relate to their obligations to publicly disclose facts and figures about their business operations as part of the deal of being a public company. So it's going to be interesting to see which public mining companies may also run into some choppy waters, and whether or not such things as this may become more commonplace. Whether this is mismanagement and the wrong leadership, or, hey, we're down bad given the current market and we don't have a path forward. Hard to see right here, hard to tell exactly what's going on, but the quote unquote restructuring alluded to in the company statement certainly suggests that a lot of work is ahead for Compass Mining itself. Going to be interesting to see if Thomas Heller, who's been a long time presence in the mining space, can help right the ship. Jen, any last thoughts on this one before we change gears?
Yeah, I was just pondering, this is not the first time we've seen a bear market. We're talking about all of these companies that seem to have been over leveraged during the bull market, as if this was a surprise to them. I'm curious to hear from either of you. Do we see this every bear market? And why does it seem like a shock that we're talking about it now again? Any thoughts?
I kind of want to chime in, and what I want to chime in about because I got into crypto end of 2017, because when I heard about it in 2011, nobody was using Bitcoin at all. It was very complex to use or even to buy. So what I saw in 2017, when we actually went in the bear market, we had all this vaporware. We had all this vaporware. We didn't have DeFi. We did have an NFT presence, but it wasn't like it was today. We didn't have this many retail in the market. One thing I will say is now that we actually have legitimate DeFi and CeFi products, and I feel like a lot of people just really mismanaged their money and they took out loans. They didn't understand what a liquidation amount was. They got really euphoric, really excited. I almost took out a Bitcoin collateralized loan at like, I think when the market was trading at like $45,000. I was so close to doing it because it's a great way to offset taxes. Speak to a CPA about that. Don't listen to me. Not licensed to talk about taxes. But I will say people were doing that so they didn't have, because, you know, that's what all these rich hedge funds and all these rich people do is they take out loans against their assets. So a lot of people are doing that to not pay taxes. They don't understand that you have a liquidation area. And they also don't understand if that position does get liquidated, you actually have to pay taxes on the sale of that Bitcoin at whatever particular price it is. So hopefully next bull run will have a lot better products in the market that are a little bit more transparent, I hope.
Jen, I think to your question, like there is sort of this phenomenon of like class of 2017, right? You see this on crypto Twitter, class of 2021. There's these sort of new entrants to the space who come in when there is that excitement and that sort of light, lofty price prospect. And everyone sort of relearns the same thing each time in that class. So I think there is sort of that lack of awareness of preceding lessons that previous classes had learned in this Bitcoin journey. So that I definitely think is part of it. I joined CoinDesk in late 2018, which was sort of in the middle of the doldrums. And I remember a lot of those big splashy ICO projects did have to announce big layoffs, even despite having raised significant sums during those heady ICO days. So some of those first stories that I remember covering when we came on was like, here ICO project X lays off 50% of staff, and it's something that we see now, but sort of with more established players, which kind of, again, speaks to that bigger trajectory that the market has undergone, right? The established CeFi and DeFi players that weren't there last time around. But hey, it happens. These drawdowns happen and big cuts occur in the marketplace at many a firm.